Hello and welcome to Nakamura's last game of the US Chess Championship, an event that he has won thanks to this beautiful game in which he chose to answer d4 with the Dutch defense. This is an opening that is not played so often at the highest level, f5 probably being considered too risky. But nevertheless, it's a legit opening and a very good choice when you want more than a draw. And Nakamura wanted more, because in the last round he was tied with Caruana and Dominguez, so they had a race in 3. And from the 3 of them, Dominguez was even playing white against Garev, who didn't have a very successful event, so Dominguez was in pole position, so to speak. Naka wanted to win, so he chose the Dutch, an opening where Black kind of wants to play a King's Indian setup with f5 already in, without the need to move the knight from f6 first and then f5. White will usually play g3, bishop g2, knight f3, c4 and knight c3. Black will play g6, bishop g7, knight f6, d6, and eventually e5. So the game went knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, g3, bishop g7, bishop g2, castles, castles, d6, and knight c3, and we reach the typical starting position of the Dutch defense. Since Black played f5, he very much would like to have a pawn also on e5 to cover these central squares. Pawns are strongest when they are next to each other and help each other out by controlling the square in front of the other pawn. Without the e-pawn, White can block the f-pawn by placing a piece on f4. Black has a couple of different plans here. They are all in connection with e5. He can play queen e8 to follow it up immediately with e5, the point being that after they exchange pawns, White won't be able to exchange the queens and take on e5. White usually stops e5 and plays d5. e5 now is not very good because after the exchange of pawns and bishop e6, White has knight g5 or knight d4 with tempo on b7, and the bishop has to go back. But instead of e5, Black has other choices. In chess, you gain some and you lose some. And by playing d5, White gave up control of c5 and e5, and they can be occupied by the black pieces. And the knight on b8 can happily go to c5 now. Another plan is to prepare e5 a bit with c6. If now d5, then e5 is possible because after the exchange, b7 is guarded and Black attacks c4, so there's no time to attack the bishop with the knight. And the third good idea for Black is the one also that Naka chose, knight c6, with the same idea of e5. White usually doesn't want e5, and neither did Jeffery, so he played d5. And here Black has two moves. He can either play knight e5, and after the knight takes, pawn takes, attack the white king by advancing the kingside pawns, and ideas like h6, g5, queen e8 and queen h5, and try to get an attack. White in the meantime will work on the queen side and the center, and will keep Black busy there. In the game, instead of knight e5, Naka played knight a5, a move that he played before in 2011 against Aronian. In that game he played e5, the position opened up, and they drew very quickly. In this one, Naka needing a win, instead of e5, he went for c5 and the queenside attack. Jeffery continued with b3, defending c4, c5, bishop b2, a6, preparing b4, knight g5. If now h6, then maybe he intended knight e6, and since the knight is just too strong there, bishop takes, pawn takes, and now White gains d5 for the knight or the bishop. The other idea, after h6, could be knight h3 with the idea of knight f4 and putting pressure on the weakened kingside pawns. After knight g5, Naka just ignored the knight and played rook b8, preparing to break with b5. queen d3, stopping b5 for now, queen e8, knight d1, rerouting to e3, b5, queen d2, knight back, knight e3, and knight d8, guarding the weakened-like squares, and also unblocking the rook on b8. Knight h3, rerouting to f4, where it puts pressure on g6 and allows h4, h5. Bishop d7, rook d1. Naka would like to open the b5 for the rook, but taking it on c4 now wouldn't be good because of knight c4 and white is better. So Naka played b5 and he will try to open the a5 for the rooks. Queen c2, a5, knight f4, a4, and h4. Jeffery needs to create some weaknesses before Naka invades on the a file. Rook a8, queen b1, and now rook a6, a very nice multi-purpose move. Naka anticipates e4, e5 coming, and with rook a6 he defends d6 laterally. This also removes the rook from the long diagonal, just in case, and eventually might even allow doubling the rooks. Bishop f3, now h5 could come, so Naka plays queen f7, intending to meet h5 with g5, and then if the knight goes to e6, blocking black's light-squared bishop and by that attacking f5 twice, Naka could take and then take back with the queen even, defending f5. d5 is defended by the knight, so no bishop d5 skewer stuff. But instead of h5 in this position, Jeffery went knight g2, Hikaru played knight g4, bishop takes, pawn takes, and e4. Jeffery wants e5. Naka goes for the queen exchange with bishop takes, queen g7, queen takes, king takes back, e5, bishop f5, pawn takes, and rook e1, the point of the whole thing. White invades on the e file. Knight f7, going to e5. Before that though, Jeffery slips in the rook. King f6, breaking the pin, and knight e5 now is unstoppable. Stockfish says white is worse. He should have tried rook e6, giving up the exchange but getting a passed pawn. But even that is bad. Jeffery went for rook b7, which is losing. A takes b, and rook a8, taking over the a file. And this was the point of Naka's play. He's basically claiming that yes, white got in with the rook, but there's nothing much to do there. The rook can't attack the pawns, and the threat of exchanging the rook on d1 and then attacking b3 is much too great. Jeffery tried knight e3, rook a1, king f1, knight e5, offering h7 to Jeffery, but taking the pawn just loses a piece after knight f3, knight e6, rook takes, knight takes, rook a1, king e2, bishop c2, and the knight can't move. Jeffery, of course, after knight e7, didn't take on a7 but on a1. Rook takes, king e2, knight f3 with the same mating idea as before. Knight takes on f5, and now it's very important to take with the king. Taking with the pawn is only a draw after knight h5 check. King g6 is only a repetition of the knight back to f4, and if king e5 trying to escape from the draw, then king e3, and in the face of the mating threat with rook e7, black has nothing better than rook e1 check, and then we have a repetition with king d3, rook d1 check, and king back to e3. So king takes on f5 is needed to disallow knight h5. Jeffery is very tricky, and Naka needs to be careful. King e3, already a new trick, or rather a variation on the same theme. Hoping maybe that Naka won't notice the threat and will go for the pawn on b3. That would be quite something. After rook f7, king e5 and knight d3 mate. That would be quite a nightmare. Naka avoided that with rook check, king d3, knight e5, king d2, And now rook back to a1, trying to get b3, or if the king defends it, then check on a2 and take f2. Knight e6, and now Naka says, okay, let's save h7 then. Rook b6, rook a3, king c2, rook a2 check, king d1, and now knight d3, getting the pawn on f2 with check, but not only, the knight is also good for some nice mating threats. Rook takes on f6, knight f2 check, king e1, knight d3, king d1, king e4 going for a mating net, knight c7 to allow the rook to give some checks, knight f2, king e1, king d3, rook takes on g6, but those pawns don't count in the face of mating threats. King f1, getting out of it, knight g3, king g1, knight e2, king h1, king e3, trying to get to g3, rook f6, cutting the king's access to g3, but Naka now promotes the g-pawn after check, king g2, rook g1, king h2, g3, king h3, rook a1 check, and here Jeffery resigned. After king g4, g2, and Naka will get a new queen. And after king g2, black mates in 4 with rook h2, king f1, g2, king e1, rook h1 check, rook f1, and then mate on f1. Congrats to Naka for a smart opening choice, well played game, and a deserved US Championship title, which is now his 5th, which is quite something. If you like my take on these games, then please subscribe, like, and share these videos with others, they may enjoy it too. Also check out some of the other videos. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.